At the beginning of the story, a girl sits in the middle of empty space, feeling incredibly curious about this sparkling and wondrous new world, as if preparing for a new great upheaval. The scene shifts to a certain city on a scorching summer day, where two young men are playing basketball with each other. The black-haired boy had just taken a short break outside when suddenly the girl from before blocked his path, introducing herself as the omniscient god with the name Odin. The boy thought Odin was a lost child and wanted to take her to the police station, but she kept insisting she was really a god, continuously urging the boy to go back to that basketball court because she wanted to learn more about this strange earthly game. The boy thought the little girl was interested in basketball, so he nodded and led her into the court. His friend saw the little girl and was confused, sharing the same thought as the black-haired boy, believing this little girl was a lost child and moreover one who was delusional. Feeling looked down upon, Odin immediately wanted to throw the basketball into the hoop to prove herself, but instead got laughed at by the blonde friend. When she heard them say they were both seniors taking a break while studying for university entrance exams, Odin suddenly said they were doing something pointless because in 30 days this world would come to an end. The two naturally did not believe her, thinking Odin was just a child making up nonsense about gods and demons. The blonde one immediately drove away, leaving his friend behind with the little girl. The black-haired boy then pulled Odin aside to talk and learned her name was Hina. The boy also introduced himself as Narukami Yoda. Hearing his name, Hina was startled because Yoda's name symbolizes the sun god. According to Hina, Odin is a supreme deity who reigns over other gods, a master of magic with an intense thirst for knowledge, served by a pair of ravens and wolves, living in Asgard, the sacred land of gods and also a famous tourist destination. Yoda once again wanted to take Hina home because he still had to return to the library to study and also to meet his childhood sweetheart Izanami. Hearing the girl's name, Hina once again got angry, asking how could she be the wife of a Japanese god. Hina insisted on meeting this friend named Izanami. So Yoda had no choice but to bring her along despite still finding this little girl extremely strange. On the way, Yoda increasingly felt the strangeness of this little girl who claimed to be a god. Just because of one sentence about touching a sacred object causing rain, immediately a heavy rain came pouring down. Just because of one sentence about a bus not being able to go faster than walking speed, the sky immediately cleared up and the bus was stuck in traffic. Setting that aside, the two quickly entered the library. At the library, Izanami was studying seriously and only nodded when she saw Yoda arrive. After talking for a while, it became clear that Yoda liked Izanami, but she only saw him as a friend. Facing her harsh words, Yoda painfully could only channel his frustration into studying while complaining loudly. Because of being too noisy, both Hina and Yoda were kicked out of the place. Standing outside the building, Hina kept talking about how the world would end in 30 days, mainly because of humanity's foolish choices that could not be prevented. Seeing that Yoda still did not believe her, Hina decided to prove herself by transforming into Natsume Soseki. At first Yoda had some expectations, but it turned out Hina was just mumbling quotes from Soseki that were in textbooks. Yoda was speechless, and since Hina was hungry, the two went to a ramen restaurant where Hina really enjoyed the food. Seeing the restaurant owner excitedly watching horse racing on the TV screen, Hina told him the result of the race. At first no one believed her, but in a moment the race result was exactly as the little girl said. Yoda was amazed but still not entirely convinced. To prove it, Hina continued to predict the result of the next race and was right again. Seeing the restaurant owner paying attention and wanting to use Hina to make money from betting, Yoda immediately pulled Hina out of the restaurant. At this point Hina read Yoda's thoughts word for word, making him unable to not believe that the little girl before him possessed supernatural power. Hina then decided she would stay by Yoda's side until this world ends, which also meant Yoda could use the power of the god Odin. Hearing this, Yoda immediately stated his wish to pass the next exam and attend the same university as Izanami. Hina kept reminding him that the world would end in 30 days, so why hope for exams anymore? The little girl then expressed that she would help Yoda by using her omniscient power to make him more suitable to Izanami's taste, and that way he could win over the good girl. After thinking for a while, Yoda changed his wish, wanting to become Izanami's ideal man. Hina smiled in agreement and gave her first suggestion that Izanami likes baseball. Hearing this, Yoda held his head in pain because he had been playing basketball all this time from middle school until now, realizing he had made a mistake from the start. According to Hina, Izanami really loves watching high school baseball and often goes to Koshien Stadium in spring and summer. Yoda was both pained and could hardly imagine what Izanami's excited face looked like while watching baseball. Hina then advised Yoda that if he wanted to win the beauty's heart, he should challenge the baseball team and hit a game-changing home run for Izanami to see, and then she would like him. The next moment, Yoda was actually standing in front of the baseball field, holding a bat in confusion, while in the distance Hina was sitting with Izanami watching the game. All of Hina's reminders about the opponent's pitching were correct, but Yoda was too unskilled to actually hit a home run. The baseball team members all left, leaving Yoda in pain and extreme embarrassment. Hina then came to advise him to bravely go confess since the world was ending soon anyway. Yoda somehow actually went up to his friend, struggling to speak. After gathering courage, Yoda immediately confessed and was quickly rejected by Izanami with an apology. She had left. The sky had grown dark, and only Yoda sat sadly on the grass. He dejectedly told Hina to go back to her home in Asgard. Hina said she would stay at his house since his parents would agree anyway. Yoda confusedly tried calling his mother, and after hearing her son describe the little girl's appearance, his mother immediately agreed to let Hina stay. Hina was not surprised because no future lies outside her omniscience. Only then did Yoda truly look at her with different eyes. Yoda had no choice but to bring Hina home. After a cumbersome self-introduction, Yoda's mother, who was a very gentle person, told Hina to feel at home. Hina really did make herself comfortable, lying sprawled on the sofa as soon as she entered. Yoda felt this was very inappropriate and slowly went into the kitchen to talk with his mother. He thought the little girl was not a close relative, so why was she keeping her here? But his mother revealed that Hina was actually a distant relative of the family. Yoda thought his father would not agree, but on the contrary, he was very comfortable allowing Hina to stay, and nobody knew how the little girl made both his parents believe she was related to the family. Looking at Hina's smug face, Yoda wanted to kick her. At dinner, Hina enjoyed the delicious food of the family. At this time, Yoda's younger sister also returned home, very curious about this little girl Hina. After learning her name was Narukami Sora, also the name of a god, Hina cried and threw a tantrum, asking why everyone's name had more divine meaning than hers. Indeed, the Narukami family had a tradition of naming like this. Even the father was named Narukami Daichai and the mother Narukami Takiko. Hina was about to go crazy but quickly calmed down, comforting herself that after all she was the real god. After dinner, Hina and Yoda entered his bedroom. Hina felt human life was so luxurious since where she lived there were not many good memories, and gods never had guardians like humans do. Seeing Yoda wanting to study again, Hina immediately angrily threw all the notebooks away, saying why study when the apocalypse was coming. To keep her from bothering him, Yoda suggested she try playing his video games. Hina played while grumbling about the low-level character in the game, but Yoda said low-level characters would have unlimited potential. Truly the standard protagonist Halo viewpoint. Hina really liked this game, but after playing for a while she fell asleep, leaving Yoda sitting there in confusion. Later, the little girl was brought to her parents' room to sleep, and the two of them talked as if the little girl's arrival was just a brief matter. The next day, Yoda silently looked at a photo of himself with Izanami and his friend. Yoda and Izanami were childhood friends, and after her mother died from illness, she gradually became more reserved, often hiding behind him whenever they went out to play. In high school, Izanami became famous for being both beautiful and smart, which made Yoda like her even more. Yoda also had his own hobbies, but because Izanami wanted to attend Hachiman University, a university with very high scores, Yoda also tried hard to study with her during summer. But thinking about confessing yesterday and being rejected, Yoda could only hold his head in sadness. Seeing this, Hina continued to present the next plan to close the distance with Izanami, since later Sora would also ask him to film together. A perfect opportunity to lure Izanami into following that script. Though Yoda verbally refused, when Sora actually asked, he immediately agreed to accept. A moment later, Yoda wearing an astronaut suit went to meet Izanami. Yoda read the lines given by Sora and Hina, and Izanami surprisingly did not suspect anything and went along with his nonsensical words. Even Sora and Yoda's father participated in this movie as the commander of NASA. Izanami arrived and wanted to leave immediately, but Yoda kept delivering CEO-style farewell lines to his girlfriend going abroad before turning and running around the corner. Hina also supported with firework effects. A moment later, Yoda returned to where Izanami and his father were standing, continuing to read his lines. Yoda's father finished his lines and left, and Izanami also quickly said goodbye to him. This plan had failed again since Izanami could not act according to the predetermined script, let alone do what Hina had arranged. Though not as planned, Sora really liked this footage and wanted to submit it for a competition at school. If Plan A failed, then on to Plan B, and Izanami was called again. This time Yoda was standing in an arena battling with his blonde friend. After delivering the line about how beautiful she looked today, he and his blonde friend immediately rushed to punch each other in the most obviously fake way, with the wounds on their faces being makeup. After winning the fight, Yoda ran out and loudly called Izanami's name according to the script. But once again, Izanami turned and went home, and the plan failed again. The three men held their heads in pain, having wasted time on such pointless things since Izanami never followed the plan. In the end, only Sora was satisfied with this footage. Back inside, Yoda was dressed by Hina in a Scissorman costume, wanting him to play this role to win Izanami's heart. Yoda had no hope left, but seeing Sora so excited and interested, he had to continue acting and went outside. But the result was predetermined, and Izanami was not moved at all, leaving Yoda to run home in embarrassment. In the end, the one who benefited most was still Sora. Finally, Yoda and Hina sat on the porch eating watermelon. Hina continued to give her second suggestion that Izanami really likes watching movies, so the music she listens to also comes from movies. Her dream is to become a music director for movies, and she plans to study the psychology of sound. All things Yoda had not noticed. Hina then advised Yoda to write a moving piece of music, a tragic melody with an alluring tune. The two went to a music instrument store. Hina immediately used her power to compose a piece of music. Yoda felt this piece was too difficult, so Hina told him to record it and practice along, saying if he wanted to win a girl over but did not invest effort, then why bother pursuing her at all? After getting the sheet music, Yoda quickly practiced along, finally receiving praise from both Hina and the shop owner. With preparations complete, Yoda immediately went to Izanami's house to play piano. He took out the music sheet Hina had composed and quickly placed his hands on the keys to begin. And despite his effort, there were still a few mistakes. Izanami listened for a moment, then came to sit beside him, and Yoda stood up to give her the opportunity to perform. When playing piano, Izanami showed a comfortable smile. Yoda stood silently in a corner listening to that wonderful melody. After playing, Izanami praised the piece and said Yoda was quite talented in music. Yoda was about to confess again when the atmosphere seemed right. But the words that came out were that he wanted to study at the library with Izanami. Back home, Yoda sadly wanted to bang his head against the wall, but he also did not forget to thank Hina for writing that piece for him. At dinner, Yoda's mother was bringing food out when she accidentally broke a plate in her hand, which is normally a sign of bad luck. Sure enough, at that moment someone knocked on the door, and Sora had been injured and was being brought home by her friend, with only 24 days left before the end of the world. The next morning, Sora slowly opened her eyes and saw her brother standing guard at the door. Seeing that Sora had woken up, everyone quickly came in to check on her. It turned out that yesterday, while going out with her friend, Sora had fallen while running away from a debt collector. Sora explained that she did this because of Jinguji Senpai, a former senior in her club who was in a very pitiful situation. Her parents could only remain silent upon hearing this. Hina then said she would help her since after all she was the god Odin. She also said that Yoda had witnessed the power of the god Odin, so he understood very well, and besides she had never failed. But Yoda could only laugh awkwardly since she had lost more than one. The parents then stepped forward wanting to help Sora and her friend. According to Sora's account, Jinguji's mother was sick, so the girl had to manage a ramen shop by herself, and business was not going well, plus she had to pay off debts. Hina then said the solution was simple, just make the ramen shop famous. And it was just the right time because she also wanted to create a type of ramen that had never existed in the world. Yoda did not want to participate in this matter, but Hina kept pulling him in. But since everyone was busy and Sora alone could not do anything, Yoda sighed and agreed. On the porch, Hina gave Yoda a plan that she had already prepared, and he just needed to follow it. She also gave Yoda a pair of glasses to wear to hide his identity. A moment later, Yoda, dressed in a flashy suit with glasses, quickly entered the ramen shop. Jinguji smiled warmly to welcome the customer. According to Hina's plan, Yoda sat at a table and ordered a special bowl of ramen called Heavenly Ascension Ramen. He looked around the shop, and even though it was noon, there was still no one coming. A moment later, a bowl of noodles was brought out, and Yoda quickly tried it. then was amazed because it was really delicious. After eating, Yoda immediately carried out step 2 of the plan, introducing himself as a ramen restaurant innovator named Narukami Yoda. Jinguji was very surprised because someone like Yoda was already 40 years old, and moreover this person seemed to be related to Sora. Yoda explained that Sora was his niece, and also affirmed that he was not a suspicious person at all. He continued to say that he would make this ramen shop famous for only 100 yen a day, extremely cheap. For step 3, Yoda asked Jinguji the question as Hina had instructed, and immediately gained Jinguji's trust. He promised to teach her everything he knew over the next 3 days for 300 yen, helping the shop to be revived. Jinguji immediately agreed. First, regarding the name, Yoda told her to change it to Fallen Paradise. Then, entering the shop, Yoda expressed that having food without additives was no longer a plus in the food industry, and they needed to change their approach. He ordered her to remove all unnecessary ingredients. The flavor might become less rich, but a spoonful of MSG would reverse everything. Before the adjusted bowl of ramen, Yoda and Jinguji tried it, and sure enough it was still just as delicious. The next step was marketing, and Yoda advised her to perform a small show of pouring tuna broth over the ramen, turning it into a special meaning, a highlight for this restaurant. After that, the two continued with the cold noodle dish. But at this time Sora quickly appeared at the shop wanting to help. She wanted to work here for free. Hearing this, Yoda was moved as if witnessing his sister growing up, then quickly continued with his lesson about cold noodles and soup. Next, the Yoda siblings quickly worked on a new signboard for the restaurant. Though it looked ugly, it was very eye-catching. Back inside the shop, all three enjoyed the ramen with the newly tested recipe. Sora, Yoda, and Jinguji all felt how delicious it was and finished the whole bowl in one go. In the evening, Yoda tiredly returned home and asked Hina about the next plan. Everything was as expected, and Hina expressed that next a filming crew would come for television. She was confident she had enough power to manipulate the media with false information, and Yoda just needed to go up and answer the interview as a contractor. Seeing Hina show a cruel smile, Yoda's face became even more tired. Then the two quickly sat down at the table to play games. While playing, Hina mentioned that tomorrow she would also visit the shop once. She would do something with the floor, but it was not mopping. After saying that, she quickly left to take a bath, leaving Yoda speechless. The next day, Yoda smashed his bowl and screamed angrily. According to the script, it was the 41st birthday of the innovator Narukami. According to the news, Yoda had come up with the creative idea of a new type of ramen using tuna broth at the Fallen Angel restaurant. At the age of 27, Mr. Yoda had worked for an overseas garment company for 3 years, wearing only one suit for 10 years, and still dedicated himself to his ramen career until now. This video floated around on the internet and reached the ears of a strange gray-haired man. This person had his hands tied, appearing to be a professional hacker criminal. He kept demanding Japanese food, and after some whining he was quickly rewarded with takoyaki. At that moment, he noticed a mother who had lost her child. Though the person beside him tried to stop him, he still agreed to help this mother by putting on gloves. After a few movements, all the cameras appeared before this gray-haired person. Thanks to this, the mother was able to find her daughter. When finished, the gray-haired person was tied up again and dragged away. Returning to Jinguji's restaurant, everything went according to plan, and many people came to the shop because of the media coverage these days. Hina was satisfied with the results before her, but thought that things were still not completely finished. Sure enough, that evening when the shop was about to close, the gangsters came in. The man slapped the contract on the table to collect the debt. At that moment, Hina quickly rushed out to snatch the contract and ran away. Yoda beside her was also noticed by the man who wanted to deal with them together. Because Yoda did not know how to fight, Hina had already prepared footprints on the ground for him, telling him he just needed to move exactly like that. Sure enough, by following the instructions, Yoda not only dodged the gangster's punch, but also punched him once. The gangster could only run away in fear. Thanks to Hina getting the contract, Jinguji no longer had to pay the loan shark interest. At this time Sora also came out, and all four quickly returned to the shop. At this moment Yoda and everyone finally told the truth to Jinguji about how Yoda was not even 40 years old, and there was no competition at all. Jinguji had actually discovered the truth while Yoda was acting, but he had really helped make her ramen shop famous. Yoda explained that he only did what Hina asked. Jinguji looked at her in amazement, and Hina was about to say she was a god, but was quickly pushed away by Yoda, and the two argued again. Elsewhere, the gray-haired man named Suzuki was brought to a certain room in a high-rise building. A woman sat there, expressing that they had called Suzuki back to Japan to discuss cooperation with this man, and Suzuki had no chance to refuse. He smiled and set the condition of wanting to work from home. In the shabby house, Suzuki investigated the identity of the target, the physicist Kurogi Shuichiro. The man accompanying him demanded that Suzuki find out what this man was hiding. At this time, there were only 17 days left before the apocalypse. In that room, Suzuki was still examining the assigned target, about the information that had been leaked through newspapers. At this time, the man who came with him reported that they had inserted an appointment with Dr. Asama into the CO's schedule, a conversation with the co-author of Kurogi Shuichiro's thesis. On the screen showing the image of the person named Asama, everything was still going according to plan. At an interview appointment, Asama was discussing the process of creating his doctoral thesis and the physicist Kurogi Shuichiro, not knowing that the person interviewing him was the CEO that Suzuki had met. The two sides talked about the main issue of the meeting, and the CEO asked about his exchanges with Dr. Kurogi, then heard Asama tell about how Kurogi was very interested in the topic of love and often talked a lot about it. From this, Suzuki had a new clue. The physicist Kurogi was a married person, perhaps even very loving towards his wife and children. Returning to Yoda's family, Hina had just opened her eyes and came down to the breakfast table, seeing Yoda lovingly gazing at a woman on the news broadcast. That was Tenga Kako, an extremely hot and beautiful commentator. Yoda greatly admired this woman, making Hina look on with disgust. There was a beautiful woman right in front of him, and he did not even notice. In the study room, Yoda was doing homework while Hina was focused on playing mahjong on the computer. Just after winning a game, she announced that Yoda could now meet the goddess Tenga Kako. It turned out Hina had used Yoda's name to win, even ranking first in the preliminary round of a competition organized by this Tenga person. So Yoda would get to meet the goddess in the coming days. Yoda was both shocked and worried, since he did not even know how to play mahjong. Hina once again played the role of strategist to reassure him, just do the same things as usual, and they had been fine the previous times. And so the two continued playing video games without any worry about the upcoming competition. Time passed to 2 days later, and Yoda had just dressed neatly to go out when he met his friend Ashura, who had been waiting outside for who knows how long. Yoda briefly explained the situation, then asked why Ashura came here. It turned out that both Ashura and Izanami had read the news online and came to cheer for him, and also because they wanted to come watch. Yoda was immediately buffed with energy and left the house full of spirit. The group quickly arrived at the location that had been announced beforehand. Yoda went alone into a private room to meet the other opponents he would face. At this time, Miss Tenga had arrived to introduce the tournament. Upon seeing Yoda, Tenga smiled and expressed that she was very interested in him, since after all his playing style online had attracted a lot of attention. Looking at Yoda on the screen, Hina, Ashura and Izanami all looked up waiting. All 4 final players including Yoda quickly entered the playing table, and among them he was the only amateur. Right from the start of the match, Yoda quickly followed what Hina had said, but was quickly seized upon by opponents who took a lot of points. Ashura and Izanami were a bit worried, but Hina thought it was just giving away a few points, and they would take them all back later. At the mahjong table, the other 2 players also kept playing their moves, and Yoda followed what Hina had said and threw out a pure white tile, losing points again. This way of playing had made Yoda bankrupt in just 2 turns, with negative points and ranked last among all 4 players. The commentators were extremely surprised, and Tenga became even more interested in him, curious to know what this person would do next. Yoda did not understand, so he was not too worried, and remembering what Hina had taught about arranging the tiles, he revealed all his cards, directly winning some points. The audience around were booing and cursing Yoda. It turned out he had violated the rules. But Tenga spoke up to announce that this competition was a symbol of freedom, not bound by rules, so the match would continue, though Yoda could not do such things again. Hina was very pleased, like a strategist behind everything. A new round was dealt out, and Yoda remembered what Hina had instructed, immediately creating a long consecutive set at random, then called out Ron, half flush. Everyone was amazed, and Tenga smiled with even more interest. One player quickly played tiles to gain a preemptive winning advantage, because Hina had once said to try to collect all the east, west, north, south tiles and something good would happen. And just as he had all 4 sets in hand, Yoda immediately threw out the 4 tiles. After a series of shameless maneuvers, Yoda had closed the gap with the other three, though he was still in last place. In the next round, this time all the tiles were very scattered. Though at first he was a bit confused and worried, Hina had already talked about this, so he immediately continued playing without fear. In general, with these unconventional moves, Yoda had won the next 2 rounds. Izanami and everyone below the audience were extremely excited. Going from negative to positive points meant there was a chance now. Even if he did not win, it would not be as embarrassing. At this time another player put out a tile, and Yoda did not know how to play, so he still listened to Hina and played, causing one surprise after another, and also making Izanami change her expression because of him. On the field, at this time all 3 players were focused on surrounding Yoda. But because a wise sage Hina had once said that playing Mahjong was just like Uno, Yoda immediately confidently announced he would skip his turn. Tenga was even more excited by this creativity. This time was the final round, but at this moment Yoda encountered some disadvantages with his tiles. Izanami was worried, but Hina was fine. She had already transmitted enough knowledge to her disciple. Yoda was also a hardworking and diligent disciple, and he immediately went into battle, turning defeat into victory, even using Uno rules to request switching turns, making his opponents change color. Sure enough, the playing style of a madman was something the professionals could not keep up with. This abnormal match attracted Miss Tenga even more. Thanks to his supremely dominating playing style, Yoda had risen through the final round to become the ultimate winner. Tenga became more and more interested. She smiled and handed the trophy to Yoda, and also met with him privately after the award ceremony ended. Yoda actually was not too arrogant about his victory, since after all the strategy was all taught by Hina. Seeing Miss Tengu approaching to flirt, Yoda hurriedly refused, but was invited into a private room to chat a bit. Yoda blushed and tried to reject her, saying he was already in love with someone else. Tengu was rejected and became extremely angry, immediately changing her attitude, wanting to deal with him. She ordered her subordinates to come quickly. Yoda ran away in fear, sacrificing one sleeve before luckily meeting Ashura and Hina, who were waiting. But Izanami had already left earlier. Even though he won but did not get to see Izanami, then what was the point? Yoda collapsed in despair, with only 13 days left until the apocalypse. Back at home, Izanami was having breakfast with her father. This man seemed extremely busy, or perhaps he was deliberately doing so to forget his wife's death anniversary. Izanami left the dining table in the face of his silence. At the library, Izanami was tutoring Yoda. Seeing her sigh, Yoda was afraid that he was too stupid and bothering her. But actually Izanami was only troubled because of her father. It had been 10 years since her mother passed away, but since then her father had barely ever left the house, and had never visited her mother's grave even once, despite promising every year. Yoda's focus was only on the fact that Izanami came to the library to study because of her father and not because she wanted to see him. Hearing the story, Hina scolded Yoda for being too foolish. There were only 12 days left until the apocalypse, and he was still being so oblivious. She pulled Yoda's hand and led him to Izanami's house, wanting him to get her father out of the house to score points with the beauty. Since Izanami was at the library, Yoda went to the house and through the intercom asked her father to come out for a walk. Needless to say, the father immediately refused, using the excuse of being busy with work. Hina was extremely angry at his stupidity and made Yoda start over. Yoda used beautiful girls as bait but still did not succeed. Hina angrily asked Yoda about Izanami's birthday. After a while, Yoda started again, this time using the excuse of wanting to buy a birthday gift for Izanami and inviting him to go pick out gifts together. After using all his verbal skills, Izanami's father finally opened the door. Facing his indifferent attitude, Hina also felt this case was going to be difficult. As soon as they went outside walking, he kept looking around, then stopped at a food stall. Izanami's father was continuously amazed by the changes of this era, not expecting that people could even make curry white. After finishing the white curry, he found cheese dakgolbae, and all 3 continued to eat. Izanami's father continuously led the group to eat various dishes he loved. After all, they had achieved the goal of getting Izanami's father out of the house, so just eating was fine. Alcohol was brought out, and the middle-aged man began to mumble about his late wife, even wanting to go see her. Hearing this, the whole group was scared, thinking he wanted to commit suicide, and tried to stop him. It turned out he just wanted to drink while watching old videos with his wife, videos that even Izanami had never seen. After explaining, all 3 went into the shopping center to find a gift for Izanami. After a while, the group chose a gift for her birthday. On the way back, Hina wanted to learn about Izanami's mother. So Yoda asked his mother if there were any old photos or videos. The two returned home to find old videos in the album to watch. Yoda watched from beginning to end while saying that she was a wonderful woman. After watching, Hina immediately decided she would help Izanami. After all, she could not let Izanami not know anything about the final message. Hina was always enthusiastic about matters of maternal and paternal love. Perhaps because she was a god and had never had parents, Yoda felt he could not interfere in other people's affairs. But Hina said then just pretend. The voice coming from the phone could be simulated. Hearing this, Yoda got excited and wanted Hina to simulate Izanami's voice for him, but got slapped by the little girl. Back to the main topic. Hina planned to imitate Izanami's mother's voice to call her. Yoda felt this was impossible, but Hina expressed that since she was a god, there was nothing she could not do. The next day at the library studying, Yoda looked at Izanami for a long time, then asked if she would want to talk with her mother if it were possible. Izanami looked up at him full of doubt. He explained that he had recently been very interested in magic and had found a phone that could connect to the underworld, wanting her to try it once. Izanami asked if Yoda had tried it before, and Yoda remembered that at the beginning Hina also used this method to pretend to be Sosuke talking to him, so he quickly distracted her to forget about it. The two left the library room and sat temporarily on a stone bench, and Izanami took the phone and held it to her ear. On the other end was indeed her mother's voice, which made Izanami very surprised and nostalgic. Izanami asked where her mother was, and if she was living well, and Hina used voice imitation to answer her. Izanami asked further, on the day she died, did she feel sad? Hina only replied that nothing is eternal, every life must end at some point. Her mother also said she was about to go to the next life, and whenever she missed her, please watch the video message she left behind. Izanami was shocked, but her mother had hung up. Izanami wanted to hold on to this voice, but the phone had completely turned off. She immediately returned the phone to Yoda and ran home. Her face had never been so anxious. As soon as she got home, Izanami asked her father about this, and the man knew he could no longer lie, so he agreed to let her watch, but only up to half. In the video was her mother wishing Izanami happy birthday, at age 7, at age 13, at age 18. In the video, she expressed that she had magical powers to help the family become happier, and she was trying to do it every day. After wishing Izanami happy birthday at age 18, she asked the father and daughter to immediately forget her and destroy this video message. Her father immediately turned off the video. He had never had the courage to watch the rest. Izanami silently took in this video, then asked her father to watch the rest together. After a while, he still decided to play the video. The mother kept talking about her husband, also hoping that he would continue living and find a new woman, though it would surely be difficult. She also knew that after her death, Izanami was no longer as active and cheerful as before. Finally, she took out a wand and witch hat wanting to perform her magic, wanting their family to live happily and forget about her. At the end of the video, the father could not hold back his tears. How could they both live while forgetting her? But Izanami smiled. She wanted to make her mother's magic come true. They had to keep living. Izanami told her father to go out and live well, meet many new people. Her father was silent, and the two leaned their heads against each other looking at her mother's memorial photo. Images of the whole family once reunited were replayed moment by moment. Finally, the father and daughter went together to their mother's grave, as if to end the torment and begin a new life. On this side, Yoda and Hina were playing video games in the room when they heard a knock at the door. Izanami hurriedly came to thank Yoda for his magic, as well as for helping her during this time. In such a good atmosphere, Yoda wanted to confess to her once again. Hina upstairs thought Yoda had already confessed, so she was very happy for him, and also a bit regretful. But at this moment, Yoda walked dazedly into the room, so he still did not dare to confess. Hina angrily beat him with a pillow. There were only 11 days left until the apocalypse, and he was still being such a coward. At the basketball court, Yoda and Ashura were playing basketball. Thanks to their perfect coordination, the two were able to break through the opponent's defense. But just as they were about to shoot, Yoda suddenly woke up. It turned out everything was just a dream. He was still at home. Another new day had begun, and Yoda slowly got up to start a new day. Hina and Yoda were eating watermelon while watching the street. Seeing everyone dressed up nicely going out to the festival, Hina immediately became excited wanting to go to the festival too. Because Yoda had to study, he suggested having his mother or Ashura go with her. but Hina absolutely refused. She thought that a summer festival was to have fun with a large group of friends, including Sora, Ashura, Izanami, Tenga, Jinguji and Yoda too. Yoda was surprised when he heard Hina mention Tenga, but Hina had confirmed that this person would definitely come. Having no choice, Yoda called Tenga to ask, and sure enough, because her work was cancelled, Tenga was nearby. And so Yoda quickly called the others. Yoda's mother heard the news and took out Sora's old yukata for Hina to try on. But because if she took off the clothes on her body, she would no longer be a god, Hina declined the offer even though she wanted to. Takiko then gave her a lot of pocket money to make up for it. On this side, Hina, Yoda and Sora wearing yukata were standing outside waiting for the others. Izanami had also arrived, wearing an extremely cute yukata that made Yoda blush, continuously complimenting how beautiful she was. Then Jinguji and Ashura also drove over to gather with the group. Miss Tenga was also waiting in her yukata, and as soon as she arrived, she and Hina bickered with each other for a long time. Seeing Tenga attracting a lot of attention from people around, the group quickly went into the temple to participate in the festival. Hina wanted to try all the food at the festival, and Izanami invited everyone to eat tamisen, a famous dish in the West, which consists of eggs sandwiched between shrimp crackers and is very delicious. Hina immediately agreed, and the group bought one to try, then immediately opened their mouths in amazement. Though it was just egg sandwiched between shrimp crackers, it was really delicious and suitable for all ages. At this time, Yoda and Izanami went to a goldfish scooping stall, and Izanami seemed very professional at this game. She taught Yoda to place the scoop on the water surface for a moment, wait for the fish to gather, then flip it to catch them. Yoda found it interesting and immediately sat down to try. While the two were being romantic, Hina angrily shouted, wanting to play something else. What was so interesting about these fish anyway? Ashura then invited the group to go shooting. Yoda told her to use the gun to knock down the item she wanted, and then it would be hers. Hina immediately aimed at a penguin, but after 3 shots she still could not knock it down. Yoda told her a harsh truth. It was impossible to knock down that item with the force of this gun. But Hina thought nothing was impossible. The stuffed animal would fall if they timed their shots together. Yoda then picked up a gun to shoot together to help her, and sure enough, the penguin stuffed animal fell down. Seeing this, Izanami asked Yoda to teach her some game, and Hina felt very uncomfortable having her credit stolen. Yoda thought for a moment, then decided to teach her ball throwing. Thanks to Yoda's guidance, or because she was already skilled, Izanami quickly hit 4 numbers in a row. Walking to a mask stall, Hina excitedly chose a demon mask to playfully tease everyone around happily. Yoda saw her enjoying herself so much and also smiled. At this time, Ashura pointed to a haunted house to invite everyone in. Sora was very excited seeing the haunted house, so the group quickly went in. When the women had all gone in, Ashura gave Yoda a piece of cloth, as if the two had some kind of scheme. Tenga led the way. Behind her were Izanami, Hina and Sora looking around. After being scared by the props in that room for a while, the whole group immediately ran away in terror. A moment later, the group was finally panting and escaped from that scary house. Though scared, everyone felt very happy with the experience they just had. In the haunted house, Ashura and Yoda had coordinated perfectly to successfully scare everyone like that. Mentioning the Inter-High tournament, Yoda had always felt he could not keep up, and that was why his school got eliminated. But Ashura thought it was because their school was just weak to begin with. The two smiled at each other, then quickly left. After leaving the haunted house, Hina was excited about the rope pulling game. Just after hearing the rules, Hina quickly realized this was a scam. Pulling the rope would not actually yield any prizes. Just as she finished speaking, a group of thugs came wanting to deal with her. Yoda quickly pulled Hina to run away. After escaping from the gangsters, Hina and Jinguji played the joint dislocation game, and Tenga also joined in. Yoda then noticed Izanami standing in a corner and quickly ran over, wanting to invite her to come along. Hina had just finished playing when she realized Yoda was no longer behind her, but was chatting happily with Izanami in the distance. She immediately stood up and left, walking while feeling both upset and angry. To take revenge on life, Hina found a Lolacan guy to invite along. The Lolacan guy was scared to death and immediately ran away. She went to find someone else to invite along, but this person already had a girlfriend and quickly ran away too. Hina then silently put on her mask, feeling so alone. After walking around for a while, Hina moved into a container to take shelter from the heat because it was too hot. But as soon as she crawled in, the door closed and the vehicle started moving. Hina tried to bang on the door for help, but was powerless. A moment later, when the group gathered again, they realized Hina had disappeared, so they quickly split up to search. After asking many people around, the group found the truck parking lot where Hina had just arrived. The group quickly asked the nearby truck driver, and learned that a refrigerated truck heading to Tokyo had just departed. Hina was just an omniscient god, so she had no other powers. Therefore, Yoda and Ashura immediately drove to chase after the truck. At this time, Hina was still trapped in the freezing cold truck. Ashura had caught up with the refrigerated truck and told Yoda to just treat it like playing basketball and jump onto the truck. It turned out Ashura had been in a traffic accident and lost his ability to play basketball, so the two no longer had the chance to play ball together on the court. Encouraged by Ashura, Yoda immediately leaped onto the truck and through the window told the driver to stop immediately. Finally, the driver understood and immediately stopped the truck and opened the back door. Inside the truck, Hina was shivering and almost frozen. In the end, the group still made it back in time to gather, watching the night scenery in the city together. When the time came, fireworks burst across the sky, and Yoda looked at the scenery around him, wondering if a summer like this would ever come back again. At this point, there were only 9 days left before the end of the world. The fish from the summer festival had been brought to Yoda's house to raise. Yoda was studying when Hina walked in, reminding him that there were only 7 days left until the apocalypse. At the same time, Sora had also finished writing the movie script, and this news made Yoda a little happier. Sora gave the script to both of them to read. After reading it, Yoda immediately poured out a stream of compliments to his sister. Though it was very good, it seemed they did not have the ability to make it. After all, there were too many fantasy elements. Hearing this, Hina immediately pointed at herself, thinking she was the most suitable person for the female lead role. But Yoda thought Izanami was more suitable. After arguing and cursing for a while, Sora agreed to let Hina be the female lead because she was being too whiny. As for the issues related to the film crew, to invite more people, Hina told Yoda to quickly gather 500 brothers here. Yoda did not agree at first, but for his sister, he did not hesitate to call everyone. In a moment, Izanami, Tenga and Jinguji had arrived, along with Ashura and 2 other people. Among this group, there was also the lone shark from before, who had reformed after being dealt with by Yoda and had turned over a new leaf. Tenga also brought her subordinates here. To make a movie, they needed sponsors, so Yoda wanted to ask Tenga to support with some props, labor, and many other things. Tenga was about to go crazy, and moreover, after hearing that Hina would be the female lead, she was even more unconvinced. The two immediately wanted to compete for the female lead role. Ashura and Jinguji had the opportunity to get to know each other, and everyone gradually became friends, making Yoda very happy at this sight. Since they still had to wait for the storyboard to be done, Hina invited the group to play games. Izanami and Tenga felt interested, so the group of 4 went to Yoda's room to play. After a while, the storyboard was done, and everyone returned to discuss the movie. Sora's script was about a female lead who was clumsy, but possessed a skill that could save the world from destruction. Along with her childhood sweetheart, Hina told Yoda to play her childhood sweetheart, and Yoda had no choice but to accept, because they needed to buy props and costumes. Tenga gave Yoda her black card. After preparations were complete, Yoda and Hina put on their uniforms and began acting under Sora's direction. Just as they started acting, Hina was already not following the spirit of the script, but Sora on the contrary still let them continue, and Yoda helplessly had to continue. The scene was still going on, but because Hina sang so badly, it made the sponsor Tenga have to rush in, suppressing her frustration. The two argued for a while, and Yoda had to pull the female lead Hina away. The scene was shot again, ignoring the sound because the shot was still very beautiful. Transitioning to the next stage, Tenga played a village elder and began to participate in acting. In the baking scene, Hina kept using her power to completely smash the eggs, and Yoda in the role of childhood sweetheart held her to comfort her, the two blushing looking at each other. During the break, Yoda and Hina sat resting on the grass. Hina recalled when Yoda had saved her, and Yoda just said that after all she had helped him and everyone a lot, and moreover the summer spent with Hina was very fun. While talking about the apocalypse, Mr. Daichai brought snacks for everyone. Sora saw him and immediately gave him a role alongside Izanami and Tenga. Because this scene needed CGI, Hina showed off her software skills, continuously changing the surroundings from in the sky to the middle of Tokyo, and many other bizarre backgrounds, until finally getting it right. In the late afternoon, the group decided to stop filming and return home. While cleaning up with Yoda, Izanami suddenly laughed. She felt very happy because today Yoda was always happy by Hina's side. So she was also very happy, even jealous. Yoda was still confused when Izanami had already left. In the evening, Hina happily lay on the bed. Seeing Yoda worried about studying, she just expressed that after all the apocalypse was coming soon, they should treasure time more. The two happily talked with each other, ending a long day. Elsewhere, Suzuki angrily hacked into the camera of some laboratory. Dr. Kurogi, despite being on the list, was not present in the camera at all. So after deceiving the security system, both of them immediately went to that corporation to investigate the matter. Sneaking inside, the hot atmosphere in the room made Suzuki speed up. But even though he had gotten this far, Dr. Kurogi's information still could not be accessed. After a few minutes of frustration, Suzuki decided to carry out his plan B. Until almost dawn, Suzuki was still in the car, continuously checking the cameras. The person accompanying him did not understand why Suzuki was so focused on this facility. Suzuki did this based on the data he had analyzed, and it was certain that Dr. Kurogi's cooperation with this research facility was not a mistake. At that moment, a middle-aged man in a suit appeared on the camera screen, and it seemed he was on his way to the laboratory. In an instant, Suzuki and his companion knocked him out in one hit, took his employee card to infiltrate inside the laboratory. From there, Suzuki continued to open his control panel to steal data. There, he found a research paper on the natural immune system. The data was very attractive, but there was no trace of Dr. Kurogi. Suzuki's companion also found something very interesting. It was a letter sent between Dr. Kurogi and someone named Mikaru Chika. The two quickly got in the car and drove to an address in the letter. The house before them was in the process of being demolished. It seemed both had arrived late. After asking the workers, both learned that this place had started being demolished since the beginning of the month. Suzuki played the role of the old owner's nephew, wanting to find his grandfather. But the workers said they had no information, and the assets had been taken away yesterday. Suzuki frowned, immediately returning to the car to check the cameras in the surrounding area. They went to a scrap processing center, where the assets of that house had been brought. Suzuki was frantically searching through the garbage when a worker came out. After asking, they learned that the items from that house were being processed inside the factory. Without saying much, both immediately rushed inside the factory, only seeing items being fed into the cutting machine one by one. Without many words, Suzuki jumped onto the cutting machine conveyor, rummaging through each box. Just when he found what he was looking for, Suzuki slipped and was about to fall. Just when it seemed like he was about to become ground meat, his companion quickly pulled him up. Having found what they needed, the two slowly left. Suzuki held a photo he had retrieved from the press, showing a smug smile, finally having caught Dr. Kurogi's tail. In that photo, the man named Kurogi was holding hands with a pink-haired child, who was actually Hina. At this time, there were only 6 days left before the apocalypse. A new day arrived. Hina opened her eyes, seeing a man sitting beside her bed. This person's words kept echoing in her ears, reminding her that she would be fine. Hina at that time was worried about this man, but he only said he was fine, then quickly left. Takiko, who was sleeping, heard Hina mumbling in her sleep, calling someone. It seemed to be Hina's grandfather. She gently held the little girl in her arms, saying that she and Daichai also cared about him very much, because he was a wonderful person. Another new day began. Everyone put on their costumes and continued acting. Sora was filming behind the scenes for everyone, and Ashura, with everyone else seeing this, immediately rushed to the screen to chat with each other. Hina, seeing this, also jumped in to chat with them. In the distance, Izanami and Yoda were cleaning up the equipment together. Yoda silently stood from afar watching everyone chat, thinking about how the apocalypse would come in a few days, and even Hina would leave. Somehow he felt a bit sad. He was not well prepared for this day. In the late afternoon, Yoda was sleeping soundly, not knowing that Father Daichai and Mother Takiko were having a private conversation with Yoda. Yoda asked his parents when Hina would leave. After talking for a while, both parents decided to tell Yoda the truth. Actually, Hina was not a relative of the Narukami family. That was just a lie. In fact, Hina was the granddaughter of someone whom his parents owed a debt of gratitude. Her mother had passed away, and her father had remarried and was living a different life. Currently, Hina's grandfather had disappeared without a trace. Knowing he could not live much longer, he had asked their family to take care of her. The grandfather said he would have Hina dress in a mysterious and suspicious way and asked the family to help her. Takiko told Yoda if he wanted to know how long Hina would stay, he needed to ask the little girl herself. The next day, Yoda was silently thinking in his room when Hina burst in wanting to play games. Seeing her, Yoda directly said he already knew everything. Hina said she had only once been human, and now she was a god. Had she not already used her power for Yoda? According to what she said, Hina had become a god 334 days ago. She was not clear about what had happened, but Yoda knew this was just a lie. Yoda wanted to know more about Hina, but Hina thought what good would clarifying everything now do? Was not finding out the truth a very painful thing? Hearing this, Yoda was silent for a moment, then apologized to her for doing something reckless. Hina knew full well that Yoda would find her father on his own. Moreover, with this power, she also roughly knew where he lived. Yoda just expressed that when it came to family matters, was Hina not always the most enthusiastic? This time he wanted to be the one to help her. Hearing this, Hina had to accept and agreed to accompany her. Based on Hina's hint, Yoda found a location very close to the sea. When he learned that Hina had never been to the beach, Yoda immediately suggested stopping by to see it once. But to get there, the two could not go in one day, they had to stay overnight. So Yoda shyly went to Mrs. Takiko to ask her permission for both of them to go. Yoda's mother happily agreed upon hearing this, and even went to cook food for both of them. Once prepared, Yoda and Hina immediately boarded a train to begin their journey. Switching to a bus, it was already noon, so the two took out their bento boxes for lunch. Since the day Hina came to the Narukami house, their tamagoyaki had gradually become sweeter just as she liked. After chatting for a while, the bus stopped. They had arrived at a small village with no vehicles, so Yoda and Hina had to walk. In this hot sunny weather, both were exhausted to the point of falling apart. Finally, they stopped in front of a relatively large mansion. Yoda then rang the doorbell, expressing that he was an acquaintance of the homeowner and wanted to talk with him for a bit. Though extremely nervous, Yoda still tried to speak clearly about how he wanted to discuss matters regarding Hina. The man hearing this did not say much and invited both of them inside. As soon as the door opened, two little children, a boy and a girl, happily ran outside to play, looking extremely happy. Hina silently did not look at them. Both sat in the room for a while before Hina's father came out. He was a thin and somewhat cold man. Yoda silently looked at him, feeling this was no different from an ordinary man. Mentioning Hina, he only said the child had lived an extremely difficult life. Yoda, hearing these words, felt something abnormal lurking around. The woman of the family walked in bringing tea for everyone. But Yoda was shocked to realize she only placed a teacup at his spot on the table. It seemed both of them did not want to see, or worse, they did not see Hina being here at all. But actually Yoda was overthinking. It was just that Hina would have a separate cup of milk tea. Temporarily calming down, the man spoke up asking who the girl accompanying him next to him was. Yoda was shocked, saying this was Hina, his daughter. The man was shocked to the point of disbelief. How could this be? Hina explained that she had become a god, but her father found it hard to believe. Not only that, his new wife was also so shocked she dropped the teacup in her hand. Yoda beside them did not understand anything. Why was everyone acting like this? This development was even worse than what he could imagine. Finally, Hina and Yoda were taken to a large beach. Beside them was a dog named Munin. Hina happily ran and played with this dog. This was the first time she had seen the sea. The man talked with Yoda, first apologizing for not being able to receive them both at home, then asked what he came to ask about. Yoda just said he wanted to hear him tell more about Hina, but the man expressed that the only thing he knew was Hina up until age 7. The child had been born with a genetic disease called Logos syndrome, a disease that includes brain atrophy and neuromuscular wasting, and when reaching adulthood, the patient's muscles would gradually deteriorate to the point of death. According to his memory, Hina could never stand or speak. What surprised him more was that a treatment protocol for this syndrome did not exist. Yet Hina standing before him was not an illusion. The man mumbled, feeling he did not know whether to be happy that Hina had recovered, or to punch himself for leaving her and finding a new family. Then he smiled again and continued. Yoda was still just a kid. Naturally, there were many things he did not understand yet. Yoda showing him a healthy Hina after all this time was really cruel, making him feel more deeply about his role as her father. Yoda asked him again if he did not want Hina to live with him. The man only smiled at his naivety, then continued. Hina growing up in illness had devastated his family. Her mother felt responsible for Hina's condition and could not forgive herself, so she had committed suicide. Hearing this, Yoda felt a sharp pain in his heart. Nonetheless, he still felt glad that he could show him the image of a healthy Hina now. The man spoke gently but very frankly. In either case, he did not want to see this. These were things only those who had experienced could understand. Yoda was angry at these words of his. Hina was clearly such a good child. He did not know how he could have abandoned her either. He looked at the figure of Hina happily playing with the dog Munin. Back then, despite trying his best, he could not prevent her disease, and then had accepted giving up to protect his current life. That had never been an easy choice. Yoda clenched his sleeve tightly. He still could not understand his words. The man reminded him again. Logos syndrome still had no treatment protocol. Even a doctor like him had never heard of one. He advised him, the light from miracles only appears for a moment. In the end, reality is always there. Yoda was silent and did not respond to him. The sun had set, and Yoda went to call Hina to return with him, also asking if she had anything to say to her father. Hina still said she was just accompanying Yoda, so both quickly took a car to return home. On the way back, Yoda continuously thought about the meaning of this meeting. It seemed that not knowing would mean not getting hurt. That way everyone could live peacefully. That evening at a small inn, Hina was still happily eating as if nothing had happened. Yoda kept thinking about the words that Hina's father had said to him. Seeing him like that, Hina comforted him. After all, the world was coming to an end soon. What was there to worry about? Finally, both happily sat playing games together. Another new day, everyone gathered together to film again. The atmosphere around was extremely joyful. In the distance, Suzuki and his companion were observing them, or rather observing Hina. Based on the evidence found, Hina was the granddaughter of Dr. Kurogi, who had Logos syndrome but had now recovered. This allowed them to make further deductions. Kurogi's research was to save his granddaughter. As for how, it was hard to say, because he participated in too many research projects, and moreover the research was all very scattered. Suzuki also found out that after Dr. Kurogi passed away, the girl had moved to live with the Narukami couple, who were former students of the doctor. The strange thing was that given the current situation, their family did not try to hide Hina at all. Suzuki also paid attention to the strange behavior of Narukami Yoda recently. According to the collected files, Yoda was a third-year student at Mikiriya Public High School, participated in the basketball club, lived an ordinary life, but did many abnormal things. Reviving a ramen shop, manipulating the media to get an in-depth interview, winning a mahjong match among the top experts in this field, even though he had no prior interest or care for mahjong. But the two were in no hurry to act, just quickly returned to continue investigating. Back at home, Suzuki quickly investigated the two people, Hina and Yoda, only feeling that their actions, though appearing random, were very calculated. He wanted to understand the connection between the two, but it seemed he could not find any more clues for a breakthrough. The man escorting Suzuki at this time just silently left that house. He got into the car and made a phone call to report on the recent situation, also pointing out the danger of the matter, which could change or even destroy the world. He told his superiors that in this connected world, whoever possesses this thing would have access to an enormous amount of information. The CEO, hearing this, thought, like an omniscient god. Elsewhere, Suzuki's past was revealed. From a young age, he displayed talent in using computers and helped his family commit fraud to steal bank money. But when he grew up, realizing what he was doing was wrong, he refused to work, only to be beaten by his parents. After those beatings, Suzuki could only painfully keep apologizing to his parents. But that was just an old dream. Suzuki had just woken up when the other person also came in. The next morning, both quickly returned to headquarters to report the situation to the client. The woman, hearing this, was doubtful. A chip-sized quantum computer with the ability to operate at room temperature. It already sounded unbelievable, but the fact was it had been put into use. Suzuki wanted to obtain that quantum computer to become the most talented person in the world. But the woman pointed out his task was to find the quantum computer developed by Dr. Kurogi for the organization. Ownership was not in his hands. Suzuki felt working was wasting his own talent. He had more ambition. Moreover, he was the one doing everything but had no right to voice opinions or anything. Before Suzuki's outburst, a person beside him quickly gave him a thunderous punch. Remembering what he had been through, Suzuki became even more furious, continuously going crazy, cursing everyone. The woman thought she had her own purpose when assigning tasks to him, but whether it was an excuse or the truth was hard to say. In the end, Suzuki could only accept orders and sullenly return to continue investigating. The quantum computer must exist somewhere in the sea of information. He just needed to find it. After drowning in the sea of data for a while, Suzuki encountered an extremely complex code that he could not crack. This was the program left by Dr. Kurogi. Without many words, he tried hard to decode it, because if he could not, then he would be nothing, have no value at all. Going back to Suzuki's childhood, it turned out his parents had been killed in their own home, which conversely freed him, and was also the happiest day of his life. Returning to reality, Suzuki wanted to process this code to prove that he was the strongest, so that he was not just a tool, and then he reached it. The code dissolved as if releasing some kind of message. On this side, Hina was filming with everyone when she suddenly looked up. It was raining. The whole group quickly packed up and ran inside to take shelter from the rain. At headquarters, according to the information found, the chip they needed to find was inside Hina's head. That was what gave the girl a healthy life free from Logos syndrome. And so all of Dr. Kurogi's motives had been investigated. The CEO ordered Suzuki that he did not need to do anything more. It could be concluded. Suzuki asked if they intended to take the chip out of that girl's head. The CEO only said the decision was not in their hands. Suzuki did not want them to do such evil things. But those guys without many words threw him into a dark room for self-reflection. Though imprisoned, Suzuki still quickly used his own methods to warn Hina about the upcoming situation. At this time, the whole group was sitting sheltering from the rain in a large building, and they saw Hina still continuously deep in thought. She suddenly announced that the world that would end was not the world of all humanity, but only her world. She had given a wrong warning. The fact that she could not see the future was her future, not everyone's. Hina wanted to say goodbye to everyone here. Yoda before her words was extremely worried, but Hina understood clearly. She needed to disappear immediately. After all, the directive from that place had already been approved. She was a danger to them. Before the consensus of those people with high positions, Hina's death had been decided. At that moment, a group of people in suits walked in wanting to take Hina away. The whole group immediately wanted to protect the girl, or at least hold back these people, so Yoda could take Hina and escape. Without many words, Yoda grabbed Hina's hand and ran continuously in the pouring rain. Hina ran while not understanding why Yoda was saving her. Yoda said the summer that had just passed being with her was very fun. He wanted to be with her forever. Seeing that Hina did not understand, Yoda immediately held her in his arms, speaking his confession. He really liked her. Before all of Yoda's words, Hina still did not intend to run away. After all, she could not escape anyway. They were not people that ordinary people could touch. After saying their final words to each other, the group of people in suits had caught up. Yoda was pinned down by those people. Hina did not resist and went with them. Before leaving, she did not forget to respond to the confession, saying she also really liked him. In the rain, the two of them separated from each other. Another day passed. It seemed everything was still going on normally. Only Hina was no longer here. Summer had ended. Yoda continued his path of studying. Izanami and Ashura returned to school with him. Yoda still maintained that dazed state. It seemed he always remembered her. After that day, everyone tried their best to search for Hina, but could not find any clues at all, and the apocalypse day that was once mentioned gradually passed. At that moment, Yoda met Suzuki at school again. Suzuki proactively got acquainted with Yoda, then secretly did something with his electronic glove behind his back. After chatting for a while, Suzuki left, saying he was a genius who could do almost everything. He could even put his phone number into his phone. After school, the whole group gathered in a classroom to talk with Suzuki, a strange kid. This was a very intelligent person, so Izanami really enjoyed talking with him. And from there the group also gained a new friend. Leaving the classroom, Suzuki wanted Ashura and Yoda to teach him how to play basketball. And so the whole group quickly headed to the practice court. Izanami did not play and just stood outside reading a book. Ashura taught Suzuki how to play. Just throw the ball into the hoop, and Yoda and he would play defense. Suzuki was just playing dumb. After receiving the challenge, he immediately got past both of them to throw the ball into the hoop. After playing a satisfying game, Suzuki said he was hungry. So the whole group went to eat ramen at Sister Jinguji's shop. Suzuki just ate and felt the glow of happiness. Yoda looked at the missing person flyer for Hina and became sad again. All of this was taken in by Suzuki's eyes. After playing and eating, the whole group on the way home invited each other to continue playing, this time playing Mahjong. In the match, Izanami still used her intelligence to play this game. Perhaps because of what happened during the summer, Yoda's exam scores were extremely terrible, and he had to look for some preparatory schools. On the road, every time he looked at the surrounding scenery, old images came back. Yoda still did not stop searching for clues about Hina. In a flash, winter had arrived. The whole group gathered again to celebrate Christmas. Though everyone here made Yoda very happy, he also could not stop feeling empty, afraid that he would forget Hina. Sora at this time also came in with the group. Suzuki heard about Sora making movies and really wanted to see it. But Yoda told everyone not to watch it, because the movie was still not finished. After that time, the new year came. Yoda once again buried himself in studying and exams. After the exam day, the whole group gathered again with Suzuki. Suzuki deliberately mentioned the things they had done with Hina as if wanting to provoke Yoda. But Yoda only smiled in acceptance as countless times before. This time Suzuki did not bother acting anymore, immediately cursing and demanding to go live in California instead. Before leaving, he reminded them to think about why a genius like him would be friends with this whole group of people. Yoda and everyone thought back on all of Suzuki's actions, and also understood this person was recreating all the memories between them and Hina. Without many words, Yoda immediately chased after Suzuki to expose his true identity. It turned out what Suzuki had been doing this whole time was because his superiors had made a rule that he could not directly tell everyone. After all, he was already taking a big risk by looking for them. Suzuki told Yoda the truth about the organization and those people with high positions. Yoda did not care about those things. He only wanted to know if Hina was still okay now. Based on Suzuki's words, Hina was still alive. It was just that she was no longer a god anymore. Hearing this, Yoda wanted to know the truth about the omniscient power that Hina once possessed. The two quickly found a hidden corner to talk. Yoda was shocked at what he heard. So did the fact that Hina was no longer a god mean that the chip had been taken out of her head? After these words, Yoda wanted even more to meet Hina once again. The genius Suzuki could do that, but he reminded him, right now Hina was no longer the person he knew. Perhaps meeting her would only hurt both of them? Yoda did not hesitate and immediately wanted to go find Hina. The matter was settled. Suzuki told Yoda to go tell his parents that he would be leaving for a while. Yoda's parents had never stopped him from doing anything, so the whole group could go now. Suzuki and Yoda traveled by the other guy's car to where they needed to go. After a long while, the three had arrived at a very unfamiliar place surrounded by snow. That white building was where Hina was. Suzuki had forged an identity for Yoda, allowing him to freely come and go to take care of her. But this identity could only be used for 2 weeks, and at the same time he also reminded Yoda to make a report every day to avoid having his identity exposed. Suzuki ended his role here, and Yoda did not forget to thank the young man before him. The two said goodbye to each other. Yoda did not hesitate to run toward the building. Suzuki sat in the car, sighing about the youthful life he had just found again after a few months. He and his companion prepared to return to the isolated island from before. On this side, Yoda slowly entered inside that white building. A staff member saw him and came down to ask about his identity. Because he had the identity forged from before, she quickly led Yoda to where Hina was staying. On the way, he had seen many children who were also patients here. The two quickly entered a room. Inside, Yoda saw Hina with her hair already cut short, lying still on the bed with a blank expression. The guide reminded Yoda to speak gently or the girl would be scared. Yoda slowly sat down and talked with her even though he did not receive any response. The guide told him, when Hina came here, she had undergone brain surgery so her head had to be shaved, and it had only now grown out a little. Yoda painfully wanted to touch her, but Hina suddenly screamed and struggled. The guide had to come hold her to comfort her. It seemed Hina was very afraid of strangers. Yoda was heartbroken, but he still wanted to bring Hina back home. Because he had the fake identity that Suzuki gave him, he still had the authority to do this, but on the condition that Hina also had to agree. According to the guide, Hina was very afraid of men and also extremely weak. So she thought that Hina staying here, at a facility with mostly children and women, would be a better choice. Hearing this, Yoda became even more furious at those people. But his fury made Hina scared. Seeing Hina scared of him hiding in the guide's arms, Yoda had to end the meeting. He silently sat under the falling snow, feeling that everything was happening so cruelly, and also gradually understood the things Hina's father had once said. At this moment, Yoda suddenly wanted to step back and give up. Also thought about being like Hina's father, separating to live a separate life, because that would be the best choice for the girl. It seemed Yoda's confidence from the beginning was gradually fading, blending in with the snow here. At the hospital room, Yoda stood at the door watching Hina undergo physical therapy by a nurse to prevent muscle degeneration. A day in the little girl's life unfolded through Yoda's perspective. After physical therapy was breakfast time, the girl also needed a nurse by her side to be able to eat. After eating would come study time, or rather placing children's toys in front of the girl. But it seemed Hina did not pay attention to the things before her, only gazing blankly toward a distant corner. After being assisted with lunch, the nurse continued to lead Hina outside for a walk. Returning to the room would be free time until evening. According to what Yoda heard, Hina's Logos syndrome symptoms were much more severe than others. The guide at this time stepped in asking if she wanted to read picture books or wanted to see animal cards. When she wanted something, the girl would look toward the guide. A box of cards was taken out. First was a picture of a giraffe. Hina continuously looked at the card, trying to read out the word giraffe. Yoda observed the girl from afar, then realized Hina always showed a happy expression when with the guide. By evening it was dinner time, then she was trained on how to use the bathroom and bathe. By 9 at night the lights were turned off for bed. It seemed a day for Hina always went like this. Only when sleeping did Yoda dare to approach the girl. Night came, Yoda sat at the desk and began writing reports to send to those above. After negotiating with the guide named Shiba, Yoda was allowed to spend time with Hina for 1 hour from 5 to 6 o'clock. Because time was only 2 weeks, Yoda needed to speed up progress to make Hina accept him so they could leave this place. Yoda slowly approached Hina to talk with her, also wanting the girl to look at his face. He believed Hina would recognize him, but it seemed the girl was very resistant to Yoda specifically and men in general. Finally, when the girl went crazy, it was still Shiba who had to come calm Hina down. After the hour ended, Yoda went to the cafeteria room to talk with Sister Shiba. Shiba thought that although Hina's symptoms were very severe, the girl was also very lucky to be able to come to this place. In reality, children with disabilities were everywhere in the world, but to have facilities and equipment as good as here was not something everyone could afford financially. But Yoda insisted that Hina had never said she wanted to stay here. Shiba then told him some shocking news. Hina had looked into her eyes and recognized that she was herself. When first arriving here, Hina was completely closed off, so the current change was extremely positive. Hina had been through many terrible things that made continuing to live frightening for her. But now she was trying to live in this world once again. Yoda still felt he could do it. Shiba only advised him not to just talk, but to act so that Hina would look into his eyes with trust. Then she left. Yoda encouraged himself for a moment, then entered with a picture book. He slowly read each line in the book, telling a Greek mythology story. Though Hina still did not turn her head to look at him, Yoda still kept trying, even weaving their memories into the story. But today there still seemed to be no progress. Many days passed. Hina, though recognizing Yoda was there, had never opened up to him, had also never looked into his eyes. This gradually made Yoda lose confidence in himself, also fearing that the side effects of the surgery had made Hina forget him. At this time Shiba came in. She wanted to know about Hina's past, also thinking that removing the chip from her head had caused her memories to go with that chip. Shiba still used words to advise Yoda to give up. Yoda, though in pain, still thought Hina was a person who knew how to express emotions. But Shiba's words made Yoda doubt even more about the memories he once had with Hina. At the end of a day, Yoda was silently sitting outside in the yard when Izanami called. She asked about his situation, then said she herself was very happy seeing Yoda with Hina, so she hoped he would not hesitate like that, to believe in himself. Yoda told Izanami about the doubts in his heart, but Izanami still believed that Hina was Hina, not a machine. After this call ended, Ashura called, and Sora too. They all hoped Yoda could bring Hina back. Thanks to them, Yoda had more faith in himself as well as faith in Hina. In the group chat, everyone also sent many messages. Even his parents encouraged him. At this time Yoda found another path to reach Hina's heart, through the girl's hobbies that Shiba did not know about. First was the video game console. Through the fake identity, Yoda had used reports to have them buy him a game console. The console was brought to Hina's room to be set up, but Shiba did not agree to this, because games could be addictive and harmful to the girl. Yoda thought 1 hour a day would be fine. Shiba still thought it was just the chip's memory, but he did not argue about this issue with her. When his free time came, Yoda handed the game controller to Hina. The girl curiously took it. Yoda guided her on how to use it and how to play. After trying it, Hina really liked it, but because her mind developed slowly, the game also became difficult. Yoda had made Hina uncomfortable again. Shiba immediately came over to soothe Hina and said cold things to make Yoda leave. Shiba was also once a mother with a sick child like Hina and the children here, so her desire was to save them to fill this heart. Though the start was not successful, Yoda did not give up. The next day, Yoda continued to guide Hina in playing games. This time there was much more progress. The girl also did not scream and cry like before, but in the end she still cried. Finally, it was still Shiba who came to play with the girl. They used a projector to project stars onto the wall. By observing Shiba, Yoda quickly understood that he should find a more appropriate way to approach the girl. The next day, Yoda brought some drawings of everyone to show Hina and help her remember. Hina had just taken the paper with Yoda's face on it when she threw it away. Another day with no new progress. Night came. Hina was sleeping on the bed while Yoda silently played games. He wanted to level up the game for Hina. That way, no matter what she did, she would not get a game over and make her cry again. The next morning, Shiba came into the room and saw Yoda still playing games. He did not have much time left, so not sleeping was fine. Free time came again. This time Yoda did not do anything, waiting for Hina to want to play games herself before taking it out for her. This time Yoda only cheered for her. Hina finally showed a happy smile. Shiba on this side checked the reports that Yoda wrote and quickly noticed something abnormal, immediately asking about his identity. Yoda did not lie, only wanted to ask her for a bit more time. But Shiba immediately refused, making time become even more urgent. Another morning passed. Yoda was standing watching Hina eat breakfast when Shiba called him over to talk. She wanted Yoda to leave immediately before she called the police. This was her final act of mercy. Yoda asked if he still had a chance to see Hina again. Shiba only announced that she and Hina would move to a research facility overseas, a better place than here. But it also meant they would not see each other again. Yoda immediately knelt down to beg her to let him stay here for the rest of today. Even half a day would do. Before this plea, Shiba could only sigh and agree. In the hospital room, Yoda watched Hina play games, telling the girl that he would have to leave soon. But the girl Hina did not pay attention to him at all, only paying attention to the game. When free time ended, Yoda still stood outside with a faint hope that the girl would recognize him. But that hope became increasingly impossible to fulfill. After self-study time, Hina was lying with the pile of drawings of everyone when Yoda walked in. He asked the girl if she wanted to leave here and come live with him. Yoda told her about the story of that summer. Those happy memories of that time had never faded in his heart. But before Hina's reaction, Yoda gradually felt that perhaps Shiba was right. The girl still preferred life here. Yoda could not hold back and burst into tears, but at this moment, Hina suddenly pointed at a drawing of Sora, then called the girl's name as if she had recognized something. Yoda was stunned. Then, as if gaining hope, he quickly grabbed the drawing of his father to ask the girl. Hina also answered correctly. It was Daichai. Shiba was also amazed at this development. Just when it seemed like there was hope, when Yoda took out the drawing of himself to show her, Hina did not answer, even threw the drawing away and cried. Yoda wanted to touch the girl, but Shiba had come forward. Their time was up. 2 security guards immediately came forward to escort Yoda away, while Shiba went to hold Hina in her arms. Yoda still tried to resist, then was knocked unconscious by the guards hitting the back of his neck. Before getting in the car to leave, Shiba still carried Hina outside, as a final farewell to him. Yoda could only helplessly apologize to everyone for not being able to bring Hina back. Perhaps that place was truly the life the girl wanted. Yoda turned his head to say goodbye to Hina one last time, then turned to walk toward the car. Hina in her hands still held the drawings that Yoda had made. At that moment, the girl suddenly screamed out, "No!" Then she screamed out Yoda's name in a stuttering way as Yoha. It turned out that all this time Hina did not call his name, because he was already there with her. The girl broke free from Shiba's arms, trying to stand up on her own feet. Though difficult, she still wanted to rush forward, toward where Yoda was. She walked step by step, painfully trying to say, "Hina loves Yoda." Yoda remembered the last time the two met. He could not hold back and burst into tears, then immediately ran toward her. Just as Hina was about to fall, Yoda rushed forward to hold her in his arms. The two cried, calling each other's names. The security guards wanted to come forward to take Hina back, but Shiba stopped them. If Hina had made her choice, then they had no reason to keep her anymore. Finally, Yoda successfully brought Hina back home. His parents and Sora were extremely happy to welcome her. Everyone also did not mind the girl's critical condition. Yoda used a wheelchair to bring Hina to meet everyone. Everyone chatted very happily, as if wanting to continue extending the time of that summer. The whole group was discussing continuing the movie, when Hina noticed the ball in Ashura's hands, showing great interest. And so everyone went together to the basketball court. Yoda taught the girl how to play basketball. Before the girl's happiness and the surrounding scenery, Yoda suddenly realized that the memories of that summer were perhaps all wishes that the girl had always wanted to fulfill in life. How lucky that he had not chosen to forget those things. Hina began shooting the ball. Though she did not shoot well, everyone still cheered for her and clapped when she threw the ball into the hoop. On this side, Jinguji and Izanami together dressed Hina in the clothes from back then. Though her hair was a bit shorter, she looked no different from before. The whole group continued filming Sora's movie. Starting to act, Yoda narrated the script and cheered for Hina to come toward him. Receiving everyone's encouragement, Hina slowly moved toward Yoda. Though difficult, she still kept walking. Everyone seeing Hina and Yoda happy was also glad for them. In the evening, Yoda brought Hina to the hilltop overlooking the entire city below. The two gazed at the surrounding scenery. Yoda suddenly made a decision. He would register for university exams again and become a researcher like Hina's grandfather Kurogi, then find a cure for her illness. The two looked at each other full of happiness. After that, Hina's life always had Yoda by her side to help, from feeding her to doing physical therapy. To Yoda, Hina was truly no different from his god. Time flew by quickly. They had completed the final scene of the movie. Everyone chatted very happily, then also assigned tasks to each other. Izanami would do the sound for the movie, while Ashura took charge of the lighting. Everyone was happy. Winter passed and spring came again. This year Yoda decided to enter Hachiman University. Only this time it was not because of Izanami, but because of Hina. Finally, the whole group gathered at the Narukami house to watch Sora's movie together. The movie began with the scene of the world's destruction. The shots that the whole group had painstakingly filmed gradually appeared. In the movie there was also the figure of Hina from last summer. Hina sat watching very seriously. Each shot appeared as if witnessing the result after a long time of effort from the whole group. Everyone enjoyed it with a happy attitude. Tenga and Ashura even teased each other. At the end of the movie, the two characters that Hina and Yoda played lived together until the end of their lives. The screen showed the words "The End." Sora nervously asked for everyone's impressions. Everyone gave her enthusiastic applause, saying this was a great masterpiece. They also did not forget to praise Hina for acting wonderfully. The little girl Hina had fallen asleep in Yoda's arms while watching, but he was still very happy, because the whole group had created memories they would never forget for the rest of their lives. At this time, the movie suddenly continued with behind-the-scenes footage, which Hina had asked Sora to add before leaving. On the screen, Hina sat in the middle, showing a happy smile. She expressed that these past days had all been truly fresh and sparkling and brilliant, like a treasure chest full of wonderful memories. Even if the world were to end or fade away in the future, those memories would never disappear. She would always consider them the most wonderful things in her life. Everyone was deeply moved. Yoda also burst into tears. How fortunate that they shared the same feelings. Yoda held Hina's hand, telling himself that he would also continue moving forward, living to the fullest and creating many new memories together with Hina.